fully answered, or you want to talk about something, we can do that this morning. Next, the point is we conducted a competitive bidding process. There were some vendors originally looked at earlier in the year. We kind of re-sent out another bid and brought in a new vendor. And it turns out that All Energy Solar came up with what we believe is the best bid. The solar team recommended that to the council. And the total cost is $123,000. But once you subtract a 12% rebate, the rebate comes from the federal government. It goes through Collective Sun, which is an organization that will own the system, as was described by John earlier this year. We get 12% off. What's going on there? That's annoying. Is that too loud, maybe, or is that better? Do we have anyone online? Hold it closer. Okay. There we go. Okay. I'm not a mic guy. All right. So total cost is $108,000 after a 12% rebate from Collective Sun, which will own the system for the first 6 years and then turn it over to us. That's a mechanism where they collect some of the federal rebate, but they also are able to pass it on to us. As was described earlier this year, normally our kind of organization can't collect these kinds of rebates, but if we do a deal with the Collective Sun, as was figured out earlier in the year, that gives us 12% rebate. We'll ask the congregation now to pledge towards the system. The idea is we would try to shoot for a cost-neutral position of $70,000. What that means is if we were able to raise as a congregation $70,000, it's cost-neutral, meaning the financing and the payments we make for the system are no more than we would pay for the cost of energy normally. And then, of course, once we get the loan paid off, any remaining loan required, then it's all benefit from there on. And so the other key point is if we raise $70,000, and I'll show you a little bit later, the total savings of the congregation is $117,000. So that's a good reduction of energy cost over the 25-year period of the system. We'll come back to the congregation October, November this year to vote on approving any remaining loan after the pledging period. So if, like the parking lot, we're able to raise 100% of it, then there's no loan required. We move on, and there's complete benefit to the congregation. I'll show you that scenario in a second. If we have a loan that we have to go for, then of course there'll be a congregational vote later in the year. We did the vote in January, or excuse me, in the February congregational meeting to go into a contract. We haven't done that quite yet, but now we're ready to go into the contract. So, again, if the congregation decides to move ahead in November, assuming a loan is required, then the solar installation will likely be in the spring of 2023. And the council has recently voted to approve, based on the recommendation of the solar team, to move into a contract with All Energy Solar and Collective Sun to secure pricing. Because we're in an inflationary environment, the price has already gone up a little bit since was earlier presented in February. So we want to lock in that price to avoid any more inflation. And then that price is good until the time which we come together as a congregation in November to vote. Again, that's only if a loan is required. If we've raised all the money, then we're good to go. So Collective Sun is All Energy Solar is the producer of the solar panels. They'll be installing it. They have the warranty. If we have any maintenance required, they do that. Collective Sun is a financing organization, and we work with them together so that we can get that rebate. That's the whole point of bringing Collective Sun into the discussion. That gets us that 12%. Yes, sir.
Thanks for the question. Was how much are we asking for individuals? Right. Yeah, so we hadn't looked at it that way, Ray. I'm sorry, we didn't look at it that way as far as what we would ask you to increase your pledge. We were more looking at it as a separate pledging drive like we did for the parking lot and the sewer connection and the lighting that we did a couple years ago. Right. Yeah, I hadn't looked at that. I don't, right. That would, yeah, I have not looked at that. I'm sorry, I don't have an
Yeah,
answer
I
on
think,
that one.
part of when we don't have the answer, let's take it away and we'll work on that. I think it's a good idea. Options are like for the parking lot, it's a special giving just for the solar system, excuse me, the solar panel system. But if we want to encourage people to give X percent more, we can do that math. I don't think we have that math today, but we'll come back with that. Go ahead, Bob, do you have something you want to say?
I just wanted to say it's not a budgeted thing. We have a budget, that we vote on every year, kind of thing, a setup. We don't have a line item for that. So this is our way of doing it, is by just dedicating money directly to a project, like we did with the sewer, like we did with the air conditionings units years past, so forth. To do that, wouldn't we have to make a line item for this January's budget and so forth?
Yeah. Yeah.
Just from memory, our annual budget's about $350,000. About $350,000 is our annual budget, approximately, from what I can remember. 70,000 is about 20% of that. 20%. So if you're thinking in that turn, increase your pledge by 20% and yes.
Thanks, George. So, Greg, is there anyone online? Not yet, okay. Okay, and then the final point here in the summary, again, we're locking in the price, the advantage of entering the into the contract with Collective Sun and All Energy and Solar is we lock in that price. They will give us an out clause. So in the event the congregation would say no in November for whatever reason, then we're not on the hook for the contract price. We're just on the hook for $1,500, which is kind of the expenses they're incurring from now until November. And a generous member has already covered that cost. So actually there is no risk in entering into the contract at this point because any exit price, which is the $1,500, is already covered for and actually in our budget now. Yes, sir. Yes. Well, the $70,000 we're considering a gift from the congregation members. Yes, somebody has to invest that. You are correct. Okay, the question, I guess no one's online. So everyone heard, we have to include, so if someone could take a note, we should think about it. How do we include the cost of any tear down or panel replacement in the cost of the system as well? Fair point. Good. Thanks for raising that. Yep. And then the other point to mention is what we captured earlier about if we were to ask all members of the congregation to increase it by a percentage, what would that exact percentage be? Yep. Okay. Understood. Okay. Any questions on the key summary? Anything else before I move on? Liz. Yeah, we did. In terms of removal and replacement was around, I think, 30,000, but we'll dig up that exact number and publish the answer to the question. We'll make sure we get it. Yes, sir.
Sorry to jump in. No, that's the efficiency. It'll still be producing electricity. It's just that the efficiency declines of the system by 0.25% or something like that. Yeah, it'll still be at 85. It should still be at 85% in 25 years. That's it. Yeah.
So in 25 years, based on the projections and their understanding, you're at about 85% of the value. And that has been included, that 85%, let's say it starts at 100% and then the panels degrade in performance, they get to 85% of total. That's been put into the financials. We've assumed that decline in degradation of solar panels. Is it 14 years, Bob, the roof shingles right now? How old are those shingles now? Yeah, that takes us to the next slide. So based on an earlier question, we had a roof inspection, which Bob had, and actually we got it for free because of the potential for hail damage. And they said they believe the shingles would be good, and we're getting a written summary of that inspection. 25 years more for the panels.
These shingles are designed on a residential house to last 50 years. And because we're not residential, they're good for 40 years. So as they were installed in 2008, it'd be 2048 before they need to be replaced. And our man was on the roof, the actual people that installed the roof, and his statement was it looks really good for this time. So I think for me that was a question mark, but I think it's right, and we're correct, and we're considering that. Right.
Yeah, thanks for the good question. We also, based on questions from the congregation, had the idea to do an energy audit. So Russ was able to actually work with an outside organization to get an energy audit for free, which would normally cost hundreds of dollars. And that will help us no matter what, because we don't just use electricity here. So that's something we're going to do. We've also learned much more about how Xcel Energy charges us. Kathy Germa and I spent a lot of fun time on the phone, and Kathy especially spent a lot of time on the phone with Xcel Energy and also with All Energy Solar. So we feel like we've built a financial model that represents the truth, even though we had that before, but we got it fine-tuned a little bit more. And then we know there's economic uncertainty. We know that. There's talk of economic volatility and so forth. But that's kind of why we have this pledge period, to have people see, let's gauge the interest of the congregation. Let's see who's willing to put up some money towards it. Again, if we get to the $70,000 level, it's cost neutral for the congregation, which is really good, meaning it's really, there's no pain financially, and it's only benefit beyond that if we raise more than $70,000. And so the idea is let's have this pledge period. Let's see how much money we can raise. If we get to November and the congregation is not comfortable and we say no, then there's the $1,500 exit clause, which that cost is covered. If we say yes, we go ahead full speed, okay? And then just to finish the slides here, this is from All Energy Solar. The only, I don't want to go through all the detail here. The number at the lower right, you know, the system's designed for 106% of our needs, so it should cover our needs effectively. And then here it just shows you the price on the left, $123,000. It shows you that $14,800 that we'll get back from Collective Sun. It shows you that Xcel does offer, because we're considered commercial, not residential, we do get benefit every year of about $1,500 to $1,600 just based on the energy we produce. And so the sum total of that is in the range of $37,000 to $38,000 over the 25 years. Now, you don't get that up front. You get that year by year. So you can't consider, we still have the price of $108,000 that we have to work with in terms of raising pledges and potentially getting a loan. But then that gives you the idea that the actual effective price of the system is around $71,000 if you consider the life of the panels. The total expenses, what if you consider the rebate over the 25 years. But we have to think about up front, we have to buy it, we have to finance it potentially. Yeah, we're going to come to that. I'll show you that. That's a good segue. Before we get there, we also worked with All Energy Solar to fine-tune the design, so all the panels will be on this south sanctuary roof, and that saved about $8,000, and plus they didn't have to run cable from the kitchen, et cetera. The previous design, if you don't remember, had panels on the kitchen, so that's good. And then this is the answer to your question. The do-nothing cost over 25 years is $278,000 for the electrical energy modeled. And if we don't raise any pledges by the time November comes, it's still a positive deal, $26,000, but admittedly it's a long payback period. It's 17 years. I'm a recovering business guy, and we'd say, yeah, that's a long payback period. But I think my headset is we kind of view this as just like the parking lot, it's an investment in the structure of the church. It helps us save money over time, and especially if we can raise money. On this next picture, you can see if we're able to hit that $70,000 target, then there's $117,000 money in monies that we save over the 25 years. So that's good. It's a good situation. That's a 7-year payback, which is not bad. And then if we raise the total cost, the full $108,000, then the congregation will benefit $166,000 of green bar on the right over the 25-year period. So that's kind of the summary slides. I'll pause there. Are there any questions, additional questions, or things you want to talk about? Greg. Oh.
There is somebody online. I thought it was me. It's David Josephson. And he asked to have the questions mic'd, which is a little late now. And I apologize to whoever's online. But I wanted to comment. I wanted to get back to this 25-year life question. Because we focus a lot on 25-year lifespan of the panels. And the panels do not have a 25-year lifespan. The panels have a 25-year warranty. And I think we mix that up in conversation a lot. Again, panels are expected to degrade somewhere between 1/4 and 0.5% per year. They're expected to have about an 85% value, so to speak, 85% of their full production rate at 25 years. And that's part of why we talked a 25-year warranty versus a 25-year life. So the panels don't have a 25-year life. They could be up there 50 years. They're not going to produce 100% at 50 years. They're going to produce maybe 70, I don't know what the math is. So, let's say 60%. At 20% in 25 years, I think it's more like 15%. So let's say 70% of their total new production value at 50 years. So the panels aren't going to go dark, so to speak, at 25 years. They're going to be out of warranty, okay? But they're not going to stop producing electricity. People kind of look forward and at that 25-year lifespan or somewhere around there, there's probably something better on the market. And so some people look at that it's time to buy new, you know, just like we replace everything else. But again, going back to panels don't go dark, they don't quit working at 25 years, they're just not warranted anymore at 25 years. They're still going to produce electricity, they're going to work. We are putting a system that is expected to be 106% of our current usage over the year, not any one day in particular. That chart or the graph that was up there, there's some orange in the summer. The idea is in most installations is in the summer, you are using, because of air conditioning, you're using a lot more electricity than you can produce. But in other times of the year, like right now, we're producing probably, not today, but yesterday I think might have been a good day. We're producing more electricity than we're using. So it goes up and down, but over the course of the year, we want to put a system on that uses more electricity overall, or it produces more electricity overall than we're going to use. So that kind of pads that degradation over time also. The other thing is hopefully, you know, several years from now, with new technologies, maybe we're going to be using less electricity too, and offset that way. No, I don't know. I don't know if Russ can answer that, but we have an energy audit coming up. That was one of those bullet points as part of the conversation about solar panels. One of the things was let's figure out how good our roof is right now and what we expect for the lifespan of our existing roof, and that came in as a very positive report. And another thing is that Russ was able to negotiate an energy audit. We had one done, I think, several years ago, but we're going to have another one done, and that may tell us how to save some energy also. We're hoping that. So that's coming up. I don't know if we know the time frame on that, but that is something that has come out of this conversation also. I guess, let me see if I got that right. You're asking if, in general, if we would. This thing is really touchy.
So, like, even after 25 years, if we still are at 70% and we don't have to replace the panels, I mean, we're going to be probably spending more money on electric than we are if we have the panels, right? But yet we're not going to be spending the 100% like we are. Okay.
So, good point. But one thing, just to remind you too, that's something that was talked about in February. One of the churches we benchmarked, I can't remember which one, was doing very well with their energy production. So they were setting aside money because they were getting checks from Excel. They were setting aside money to invest in new panels, you know, 10, 15 years down the road if there's new technology or if there's the degradation. So we should think about this as being able to almost self-fund some of the future investment as well, particularly if we are able to raise a good amount of the cost. For production? Yep, we can. The question is, can we include an estimate for what the production would be in 35 years, assuming the same panels? So we'll capture that and we'll get that number as well. Yes, sir. Do you have that? Yeah.
So the question was about insuring the solar panels. It would be just like any other physical asset that the church would have. It would, I think the estimate that we have in the FAQ is it would potentially add $500 to our annual insurance bill because it's another asset of the church that we're insuring. That's my understanding, yes. I do not know. I don't know. I don't know what our deductible is for our insurance. I believe yes. The question was, would, in event of hail, would the warranty cover the panels? No, it does not. It wouldn't, but the insurance would. Yes. Yeah, right. Acts of God kind of stuff. Right. Right. That's for things that are technically right. Yep. It, if it's plastic or glass, yeah. Here, George.
Just an example, Black's Nursery up along the freeway. So when we had our hail event a couple of weeks ago, it was worse as you went north. On their metal surface building on the north side, it was full of dents. They have to have it replaced. The south side, they had solar panels. They're all fine. And that was their panels are fine with golf ball size hail. Now I can't tell you where it goes from I don't call it an everyday occurrence. We don't have hail that often to something that's more of that act of God. I can't tell you where that happens, but I can say I saw those panels intact after golf ball size hail.
The question is about high winds. We actually, I don't know what what they say about what we're buying for winds. These are going to be attached to the roof. There's going to be frames up there that lag into these beams. And I can tell you, we interviewed, we had a cost estimate from SolarPod. SolarPod has a device that just hangs on the roof. It does not, there's no penetrations on the roof, which I liked, but we decided for other reasons to go with All Energy. But that hanging structure was supposedly good up to 90 miles per hour wind. So I got to be a lag structure. It's got to be probably greater than that. I think this group right here can't tell you the numbers, but we had Grant and the Wiesners questioned this, and I don't know what your answers are for that right now, but if they were here, they could speak.
So we'll take away that we need to confirm the deductible, and The annual premium increase per year, we think it's 500, but let's confirm. So we'll confirm that. We'll also just interrogate All Energy Solar in terms of what they have for their rating of wind, in terms of wind damage, potential for wind damage, what the system design is designed to sustain. So we'll capture that as well. Greg? Ah, there were a lot of questions.
Our FAQ, which everybody hopefully got, does cover who provides a warranty and for what period of time, what specifically is covered and not covered by the warranty. Is there a warranty for performance? The warranty length and providers are listed above, probably apparently in a previous question. The warranty is provided by the manufacturer and the panels are covered for 25 years. Coverage includes hail damage. They're pretty proud of what panels will hold up to. So we did ask that question.
We just don't have them all memorized. Thanks, Greg. Yeah, a lot of stuff we've dug through. Any other questions or comments, things you want us to look at? Again, we are going to be entering into the contract. We will have the voting in November if there's any loan required, and we'll start publicizing, asking members to contribute towards pledges, whether it's one-time pledge or increasing by percentage. We'll look at that as well. So appreciate those questions and thoughts. Any other questions that you have at this time?
Because Ray had asked a question about increasing pledge, in this year's budget, thank you, John and Liz, for coming up with the annual report. Our pledges this year were $220,000 from the congregation, and to set up the $220,000. So if we're looking at $70,000 for this, that would be about a 30% increase. George's earlier estimate, $350,000 for the total budget would be, and $70,000 would be 20% of that. So if you want to go with the exact budget numbers that we used, it's about 30%. That's if you want to look at it doing it that way. I also need to point out, sorry, they're in the FAQ on page 1. There's a change that did not get in here with, it should say 116 panels, not 110. That will be fixed on the FAQs to be published very soon. Republished, refixed.
Well, the solar team is energized by this opportunity, and no pun intended, and council's approved, moving ahead. So we hope people get excited as well, because it is a good opportunity, not only we think financially, especially if we get a good number of pledges coming in, but it also makes us, heads us towards a good energy situation as well. Any other questions or thoughts? Yes? Sorry, sir, we have over here first. We were looking, they've had some supply issues, but our latest discussions with All Energy Solar is we wanted the U.S. production panels, and we believe that'll be the case. We can't guarantee that, but that's our intent. The question is, where are we sourcing the panels? Are they coming from China? We're working to the U.S. plant. Yes? So the idea, the question is, when we pledge, when is that pledge collected? The solar team is actually working through kind of the pledging details right now, and so you can expect to hear pretty soon an announcement on how that pledging would work and make sure it's a good, respectful process. We have to work that out. We don't know how it's actually going to work yet. So we're going to work with Scott and with finance and make sure we do it the right way. Probably similar to the parking lot project, but we want to make sure we follow the right path. So you can expect to hear very soon how that will work. Good question. We're deciding whether we actually collect money now into an escrow account or take a pledge, meaning we would, if we get to November and you've pledged something, we'd ask you to pay in November. So we're trying to ask Scott what works internally, but then we'll probably, ask people as well what you prefer to do. So maybe both are possible. But we have to work that out. It's a fair question. But at any rate, if we did collect money, it would be returned, for sure, if we don't move ahead. Anything else? Very good questions. All right. Well, thank you very much for coming, and if you have more questions, let us know. Contact any one of us and ask questions.